Well, the Bonsai Ents are definitely on the march now, and I've got 2 more in place. I've just got another 5 or 6 to put in there, and this whole great new Penjing, Lord of the Ring inspired, will be complete. It's already fantastic. If you saw part 1, you'll know how much work's gone into this, and if you haven't, quickly go back, have a look at part 1 that happened 3 days ago, and then come back and watch this, because do you know what? It's not just the rest of this I've got to finish. You know we've got the big dragon project to do. Find out what tree exactly is going to act as the horns of our dragon. And on top of that, we've still got the original Larch and Hawthorn Ent projects to try and find out whether or not they have indeed formed hard roots. Before we actually start and work out how we're going to actually deal with this dragon's head, why not? Let's just catch up and see where we've got with the main planting. And also, do you know what? I'm going to surprise you because one of my azaleas is in massive bloom, and so indeed is one of my quince. So I'm going to share you some blooms as well. Should be fun. Hi, it's Xavier. Welcome to my bonsai retreat and welcome to part 2 of what I think is an epic and probably my biggest challenge in creating the march of the Bonsai Oak Ents. Obviously, many of you will have seen part 1, but if you haven't, I really do impress upon you perhaps the need to go and have a look at it now. It's well worth it. Even I'm amazed by what I've achieved. But you know what? Before we go and revisit where we're at now, before we have a look and see what I do with the dragon head, how I'm going to create the horns with a living bonsai, and how indeed I'm going to finish all the project off, why don't we just admire what's going on above my right shoulder? Because I tell you what, these dwarf azaleas are in pink bloom and they look fantastic. Now's the time, so let's share those blooms first, shall we? And just for those of you who are wondering why it is that all the azaleas are over here on Tony's bench, it's because I've decided to finally sort out the problem with the leaves, the lack of iron, the pH levels, and we're going to observe over the course of a year, 18 months, maybe even 2 years, these recovering into full bloom and looking truly spectacular. But it's not only the Satsuki, I couldn't help it. The common garden quince. This was an air layer or a cutting or something from Dawn Isaac of Dye Ceramics. She hates it because hers don't flower. Mine do. Soft pink blooms on these. There's going to be a whole load coming out, and I promise this year I'm not chopping them off early. I'm going to enjoy them. Talking of enjoyment, really we want to go back and see how the march of the Bonsai Ents is truly getting on. Because I tell you what, repotting oaks this time of the year is okay, apart from the sun of Sauron blaring down on our face. I've got to be keeping those things really wet all the time. So first of all, I mean, it may seem obvious, but how do I keep all that lovely green lush moss safe and indeed hydrated? And all I do is quite straightforward. I've got a couple of old tea towels. I absolutely soak them in the evening and also during the day, and that allows me to keep this moss nicely damp, which means it's going to stick to the muck that I've made up. It's also going to protect those newly exposed roots, and on top of that, hopefully keep those noisy pecking birds away. Anyway, if we look over there, I've actually got 2 more that I've planted up. I've started putting more piles of soil, and truthfully all I'm going to do is work my way round. I've got a hawthorn that's over there, which got some very, very funny legs. I think I might remove a couple of centre roots. That could sit up over the far edge. A couple of other, what I'd call awkward, odd smaller oaks just to ring the outer edge. And of course, once that's all done, once the dragon's done, once we've had a look at the ones that I started in 2023, I've got a load of action figures to sort out. We've got the winged bog monster, the Nazgûl King. That great big thing's going to be there, great big winged dragon. We've got all the fellowship to place. And indeed, we've got a few nasty, horrible orcses to get in there as well. And then we're going to have a good vote and find out who thinks this is actually the best ever bonsai Penjing creation I've done. But actually, in the meantime, let's hit the dragon, shall we? I want to show you exactly what tree is going to represent the horns of that mighty beast. Got it set up how I want to do my work on it, and obviously we've got this great big area here. I mean, that eye is so impressive. I've got the wings here, there'll be a planting area here. I've got a few ideas there, and potentially in here there's a little groove or an alcove. I might well be able to shove something here, and I am actually thinking of finding myself some sort of flowering shrub or some sort of, well, something, you know, something that flowers but isn't too intensive on roots. That may have to come from a nursery at a later stage, so that may not get done today. But actually, before we get on there, I'm not going to tell you what the two plants are I'm thinking of. We'll show you those in a minute. But I've got an important announcement to make. In my previous videos, I mentioned that Jelle of GrowingBonsai is looking to come over and visit the bonsai retreat for a second time. And he's actually confirmed that he's going to come over from Thursday the 14th of May right through to the early hours of Sunday the 17th of May. And he's made a special request, and we can't guarantee that everyone, but I do want to do an in-depth who is Jelle of GrowingBonsai with lots of better questions rather than how tall is he. And part of that, he's asked if viewers want to submit questions to me over the next few weeks, perhaps include some pictures or some short video clips of your trees, and ask pertinent bonsai related questions. I know he does it on his own channel, but he is so inundated with work that sometimes it may be better to come through a different forum. Certainly if you've got things you want to ask about junipers or your Japanese white pines, he'll do his best, I'm sure, to help. And you know what? If Jelle can't give you the answers, I know someone smarter who probably can. We all know who that is, don't we? Anyway, before you answer that for me in truth, let's get back and have a look and see what I'm going to do. And the biggest problem I've got right now with this dragon's head. And the problem actually relates to the hole that Gary's put in the bottom. You know, it's more than enough for drainage. First problem we get, it's a single hole. If you look at the size of the space here, whichever tree I've picked is probably going to be quite big and will definitely need to be secured in. And really, the whole composition doesn't set itself up for like piling rocks around it. So one, I've got to find a way of actually securing a single wire in there. We know the method I'll use for that because I've used it before, but also for securing the screen safely. And yeah, before you rush down and get into the comments and say, Zav, what about a bridge? Well, there's never a bridge too far because that's exactly what I've done. And a bridge, for those who want to know, is simply a nice bit of, looks like thick sort of 5-6 mil wire, which I've wound securing wire around it, and that will simply be pushed up and under, and we'll be able to wedge itself, oh, it says hopefully, in a nice gap and cavity that's already formed under there. And that will allow me to, one, just use a little bit of mesh there, which I will thread carefully. And in this case, I'm not using a black mesh because I actually need it to be quite malleable so that it can cover the hole easily. There we go. And I've already said that I quite like to use sphagnum moss because of its medicinal nature. I'm struggling with that word. I'm just going to use that to line this gap. And, you know, I'm not going to get clearly that nice circular 360 degree of roots. They're going to be spread along here. So what tree am I going for? Well, in the end, as I said, I wanted something that in winter is probably going to represent horns or something coming up to show the horned dragon, the horned beast, but indeed also has enough green leaf coverage to almost, well, to give the dragon a wig. So it's got a nice green coverage over the top. I think it's going to be, well, bizarre at best. And I looked hard and long, and really it came down to air layers where you got that classic V shape I want. Didn't have anything oak wise, but I certainly did have, believe it or not, in these beeches. And you'll remember that I took these air layer beeches a couple of years ago, I think now, I'm trying to remember. Certainly put them in these pots last year. And again, we can see there, classic, we're going to have the horn shape that we want. And when these leaves open up, it's beech, so you get a nice broad coverage. I've got that one, or I could go really to town and pick this big one here. I'm more inclined to try and keep that one as a single tree in its own right. But again, this could be pretty impressive. So they're the two that I've picked from. And really, the only question is how much root matter. I know it's got nice thick central core roots because they came from air layers, but is there going to be enough space above that dragon's head? And actually, before we make the decision about what goes above his head, or her head, we do also need to consider that we've got the tail section. That's quite a shallow planting, and because it's already bronzed off as the tail, yeah, I might need to get some muck to build it up a bit, but I really need something that's got quite a shallow root structure, but I'd like it to be quite wide. I had a look around, Cotoneaster, Pyrocanth, something that's got nice berries on it would have looked really good and could potentially fit. I looked around, I've actually got probably a Hawthorn, which may work. It's got a sort of Ent-like look about it, or certainly an odd look about it, and would also have relatively, I think, shallow roots to put in there. Or indeed, I've got an oak, and if you look at the oaks I've got to choose from, this one stands out for one particular reason. And look, there's people already making votes already. I wonder what they're saying. And the main reason is it's pot's broken, so it could do with being repotted. So if we consider the hawthorn first, obviously without the pot, granted, nice and green, but you see you've already got a nice ent in there with legs. That fits in with the theme perfectly, so we've really got that one. I also reckon we can get away. It's got nice fine roots of hawthorn. That should work out. Or indeed, we've got this this big oak here, which much bigger. It's in a belly pot. There's the broken pot. But my fear with this, although it's nice and wider and bigger, someone else definitely has a vote about that. It's going to give coverage off this way. I like that. I think the problem I'm going to have with that one is the root mass is going to be pretty big and certainly going to take it up above there. So clearly there's a little bit of thinking to be done, and again, dangers of doing repots at the latter end of April, certainly when the sun's out and the buds have certainly opened up on case that hawthorn, not so much in the oak, is that if you start mucking about with the roots, you really don't want to be pulling too many apart, especially where I'm trying to make choices. So it may be that I'm just going to throw the dice and make my choice, and I know which one I'm going for this one. I've got the tail all set up. I've put some sphagnum down the bottom. There's a nice layer of soil there, and I've got some securing wires as well. Really, so that's set to accept this. Certainly not a massive tree. There we go. So anything that's white, they're the weeds. We need to get them out. We definitely don't want to be introducing weeds into a closed system like that. So I'm going to tease that out and about. Not a repotting video. If you want to see a repotting video, there's loads in my beginners playlist. And what I'm seeing is actually quite a neat set of roots on there. I think that should spread out. Actually, that should spread out nicely, I think. Do I remove the middle tail in there? Don't know. So the risk is there's 3 predominant roots on there coming down, and chances are if I remove one of the big root sets, we may lose one of the branches. I'm not convinced entirely they connected that way, but I know that applies to some of our species. So I want to be a little bit careful. Just need to make sure, I don't want him to move around at all. That wasn't intended, but he's got a little fig leaf. 2 little arms, and out the back here we've got a little wiggly tail. What I love about certainly the hawthorn is that generally on these, when they're small like that, they're actually quite, you can see, very nice and fibrous, and I can very easily just very over the top mound up nicely. I think you'll see that's probably going to sit in beautifully. And I think that was why the oak was going to be so problematic for this, is that they have much more coarse roots, and it would have been a lot more difficult to try and, I think, manage it to sit in here. Lots and lots of thin fibrous, and also we've got the shape, we've actually got the end still that we want. I do need to get a mossing over the top. It's really tough finding moss now, especially with the sun out, but I'm going to try and find some dried stuff, get it all damped up and see what we do. Okay, well, our little Hawthorn Ents running away into the distance with the ring of power or whatever that great big crystal was, and I still haven't decided which of the two to use. So I'll tell you what, why don't we go away, have a cup of coffee, and when you come back, well, you're going to find out. So, did you guess right? Because I've gone for the big one, and it wasn't quite as much root growth as I thought, which actually works to my advantage in this one, because it means that I can actually run them alongside, going along horizontally like this, and set it up. So I'm really happy with that, and there's just enough roots there, just a few white growing tips. Right there is a lovely healthy white growing tip. There's a few of those versus these old brown ones, which are probably the remaining old dead ones. Now what I am going to do is I do want to be a little bit protective of those, so I'm just going to make sure that a lot of these ones are actually nicely covered with some sphagnum moss. And there you go. And I tell you what, I'm glad I picked it. It's nice, it's broad. In the end, it's a great big slab planting. You need to have a big tree to sort of show that it's actually a bonsai. Little one off to the right, and I love that. Love the gold of the dragon. Yes, I'm going to find myself a nice, it's probably going to be a cotoneaster that goes here, I think. I think that'll look great, especially if I can get it to sort of work along there, have that colour in the berries. But look at that beech, and as more and more of those leaves come out, it's going to just absolutely, oh, it's going to look wonderful. I think that's fantastic. I appreciate that I just haven't got a board wide enough to set it up. This is part of a project that's going to be a fully dedicated Lord of the Rings display area. More ideas on what's going to happen to make it a more permanent, established Penjing. You'll see, in fact, I'll tell you all about it right at the end of the video. So there you go, that's that all completed. Really happy, and really I suppose we need to now go and finish off what I worked on with my main march of the Bonsai Oak Ents. Wonder how they're looking now. Well, there's no doubt that that dragon has been completely transformed. Let me know in the comments if you like the horns, how that's going to look. Obviously, two different trees, two different plantings from what's here. And as you can see clearly, wow, there's a lot more that's been added to it. We've got another potential Ent that's going to be here. We've got the one in the back. Got little ones around here. We've even got a Hawthorn Ent over there. All sorts of things. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Looks like 14 oaks in there at the moment. And Gary, you've got to admit, I think that looks pretty good. You've done a great job on the slab. I mean, I'm absolutely in love with this. I can't believe how good it's turned out. Yes, it's at the first year intermediate stage. I've got probably probably about 30% of the moss that's there. I'm going to do a lot of work to protect it. Around the back, I've still got to get some more moss, but guess what? I don't think we're going to see any usable moss until next February, next March, so that's probably when you'll see this again. look, I wanted to have that feeling of trees around there, interesting rocks and crags, these ones marching down, a couple of Ents here at the back waiting. Then here we've got some trees. They're herding those trees, so it's interesting. Right, well, that's the main part's done. We've got the main March, Fangorn Forest, all that sort of area is done. We've got the Dragon's Head planted up, looking fantastic. The only thing really left for me to do with those is to get the figures and to get the winged Nazgul bog rider. That needs to get set up, but unfortunately I've got to wait for Alice to get that on a stand. So while we're waiting for her to do that, I said we've got 3 larches and a hawthorn, which, as you saw in part 1, in July 2023, I wired up the roots and just wanted to see whether or not I could create Ents from them. Well, yeah, we're now 3 years further on, and my feeling is that there just hasn't been enough growth whatsoever to even contemplate these roots being ready to be self-supporting. So without much ado, oh gosh, see, I can tell it's not that strong in there already. Let's pull it away. You can see this is well, it's on a rock actually. As I say, this isn't larch. This is definitely not the time to be repotting your larch. We're really having a little look to see just how far along this is, and I imagine it's on a rock. It's definitely on a rock. Did I? Oh, this is, I'm sure there's one that I actually sat it on a rock. But you can see, I'm just trying to see the thickness of the roots. You can see there, we've actually got the wire. It was the original wire which I used to bend and shape these down over this rock, and what's clearly apparent is that wire hasn't bitten into the root yet, which means that root hasn't expanded in any way, shape or form. And you can see already it's flexible. I mean, I think the roots have probably got the shape, but no way would I be willing to risk taking it off. If you look at the legs, I mean, they're wide, straight. They're probably legs. Certainly that one's thick enough. Although the roots form the shape of the leg sitting down, it's nowhere near ready to use as an Ent. What I probably want to do now is keep it sat on the rock, probably secure that to the rock and treat it like a root over rock, and maybe have a look at it in 2 years' time. Pretty well classic root over rock. I'm changing it. I'm putting it into a pond basket. I want the roots to get much better aeration. And for those of you who watch my root over rock videos, there's an example up there if you want to see the root over rock playlist. I've got about 15 root over rocks, many of them looking really good, as you know. I use the grafting tape now as my go-to wraparound securing method. So enough of that. We want to go and see how this final display, which I'm looking at, looks. I definitely want to get that winged Nazgul bog rider there, king of the Nazgul, so to speak. So should we do that? Over 9 feet long, we've got the whole battle there. We've got our winged Nazgul coming down. We've got troops there fighting against the Ents that are coming down the slope. Archers, he's being ambushed over here. We've got a whole display and array of different trees that are either being herded by the Ent herders, moving over towards Sauron. We've got the dragon smog above it, this incredible wing-like beech, and then we go further over across from Treebeard. We've got our little Ent running away, our little Hawthorn Ent, and then obviously we've got the big guards of the river ford or whatever it is. Look, this is a massive project. There's a long way to go, but you know what? Just take a few minutes to admire the work. But before we do that, there's one last thing we really need to do. The king of the nine ring bearers, the Nazgûl King, needs to be seated on his bog warrior. And to finish off what we're going to achieve in 2026, There he is, in place, Lord and Master of the battlefield. Solitary archer, about to be ambushed by this horrible Orcses here. Moving up the slope, we've got Orcses all round trying to attack our Oak Ents, with a few beleaguered defenders also into the fray. Incredible, absolutely incredible. It's absolutely impossible to really grasp the full majesty of this creation. It is definitely my best by far. It has a long way to go, but if you see where it was from the humble beginnings, I think you'll agree, with the help of Gary and my daughter Lexi with her paintings and stuff like this. This is an incredible, incredible Penjing scene, Lord of the Rings inspired. We're going to have more figures, but what's best, I've got one more big plan that you'll see come to fruition by 2027. This whole white background, bearing in mind I've decided it's going to be a fixed 9-10 foot installation that's only going to get bigger and better, is going to be painted. We're going to have a mural depicting not only here the Tower of Isengard, perhaps a little lighter skies as the battle is still on the side of the Fellowship, moving over this way to the darkness of Mount Mordor, Smaug the dragon. Imagine if Smaug had actually won and kept the ring or whatever, it would have been a diabolical battle against good. And we'll see how the beech tree develops as it becomes greener and greener. Again, there's a Courtney-aster with red berries that's going to be along here. Hawthorn is only going to get bigger and better, and then along the front here, as well as having the Eye of Sauron, Barad-dûr Towers at Barad-dûr up here, so we'll have the two towers. Incredible, incredible background mural. Here I'm going to do more and more slate base so that I can put even more battle troops along the front, until this is going to be something well worth seeing. And the only way you're truly going to appreciate it is to come and visit me at my garden. Do you know what? This is the best I've done by far, and this is why bonsai is so much fun. So I'm going to spend a few more minutes enjoying this incredible scene, and wish you all the best. Got some spring tours coming up. We've got Jelle of GrowingBonsai visiting very, very shortly. The Bonsai Bash at Greenwood Nurseries. We've got a load of maples and other deciduous stuff that's going to shortly need pruning. I've got air layers coming up. There's a lot to do. But thank you everyone for all your support. And, wow. All I can say is, if we enjoyed this video, then definitely, you want to have a look at that one. Otherwise, happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.